Thank you all my professional brothers and participants. Friends, first of all, I feel that during this period of pandemic COVID-19, all of us are taking due care, reasonable care for themselves and for their family members. That is above everything, above our learning, above our knowledge, above our earnings, above all economic aspects. That is most important according to me. Whatever we are doing as a measure to utilize our time in a fruitful way. So anyway, now the topics for today's discussion are the latest ordinance issued by the finance minister on 31st of March and the amendments which have been carried out in the Finance Act 2020, which has been received the assent of the President on 27th of March 2020. First, I will take up the latest ordinance which has given relaxation in certain provisions of the Income Tax Act and other direct tax enactments and including Benami Acts, and has also extended certain time limits. So I think those are to be discussed first. Now coming to this ordinance, what are the important features and what are the time limits which are get extended? I'll discuss one by one. The time to file the original return, that is belated return under 139(4) and the revised return under 139(5) for financial year 18-19, that is assessment year 19-20, was to expire on 31st of March 20. Now, these time limits have been extended to 30th June 2020. That is, these returns can be filed up to 30th June 2020. Second, the Aadhaar and the PAN card were to be linked as per the law till 31st of March 2020. That date has also been extended to 30th of June 2020. Now, certain dates which are relevant for making investment, for claiming deductions under Chapter 6A, like ATC, investments in LIC, PPF, NSC, etc. Then ATD, payments for Mediclaim, then donations which are eligible for deduction under ATG. For all those such investments can be made within the extended period of 30th June 2020, and they will be eligible for deduction from the computation of your total income for the assessment year 2021. Even though we make the investments in 3620. Here I would like to add that there might be a situation where somebody is claiming concessional rate of taxation under 115 BAC, which is a product of the Finance Act 2020. So that concessional rate of taxation, if somebody is claiming for assessment year 21-22, they will also be eligible to claim this benefit of Chapter 6A deductions for the current year, which has just ended, that is March 20, assessment year 2021. So they will not, that will not come in their way, as the time limit for making investments has been extended. Then the rollover benefits, which are claimed under section 54 to 54 GB in relation to capital gain, even those benefits, the dates for making investment under the various purchase of properties or purchase of lands or deposit in capital gain accounts, all those dates have also been extended by a period of 3 months to 30th June 2020. So investments and construction made up to 30th June 2020 will also be eligible for the benefit for assessment year 2021. Then another extension has been made in relation to deduction and exemption which we claim under 10AA for SEZ units. Now, if the condition under SEZ unit was that the manufacture or production was to take place till 31st of March 2020, now that date has also been extended by 3 months to 31st of March 30th June 2020. Only rider which has been placed is that the necessary approval of such SEZ units should have been received by 31st of March 2020. The dates for passing an order or issuing of notices by the department has also been extended to by 3 months to 30th June 2020. Now here it is important to note, and many friends of mine have called me up that, sir, whether notice under section 148 can be issued within this extended period of 30th June. The reply is yes, such notice, because this extension is to enable the departmental authorities to issue their notices during the extended period. Similarly, here it is also important and relevant to note that under section 151, an approval which the assessing officer has to take from the higher authorities, that is from the principal commissioner or additional commissioner as the case may be, that also approval extension can be taken within this extended period of 30th June 2020. Now, it has been stated that there will be, the interest will be charged at a concessional rate of 0.75%, that is 3-4%, as against the 1% or 1.5% which is being charged for various provisions under which interest is charged, like 234A, B, C, then interest charged for payment of advance tax, for payment of income tax, interest charged under 220 within bracket 2, and interest charged for delayed payment of TDS. Now, here one has to understand that how we get the benefit of this reduced rate of interest. The first condition is that the payment must fall due within the period, between the period 20th March 2020 and 29th June 2020. And the payment of this, these taxes must have been made within, on or before 30th June 2020. Then only you can get the benefit of this reduced rate of interest. If the payment is delayed beyond 30th June 2020, then you don't get the, for this period only you will get the benefit of reduced rate of interest, but for the delayed period you will not get. Here there is a doubt. If you delay the payment beyond 30th June, then as per the language used, one of the condition is they must be paid within 30th June 20. I for one would have been happier if it was stated that even if the payment, because when you have extended everything up to 30th June 20, maybe that I may not be in a position to pay, I may pay it in within the month of July. Then if I defer my payment to July, then this concessional rate of interest may not be available. I think one should be very careful to know that these payments are made with on or before 30th June if one wants to take the benefit of this concessional rate of interest. That too is only for a period of 3 months. Then the Vivad Se Biswas scheme, which is already in vogue, as per the original scheme, the declarations had to be made, and if one wants to take the benefit of normal payment of taxes, then that tax should have been paid within 31st of March 2020. If as per the original scheme, if the payment was made beyond 31st of March 2020, then extra 10% had to be paid. Now this outer date of 31st of March, for the purpose of getting the benefit of normal payment of taxes without this 10% extra, now this has been extended to 30th June 2020. Excuse me. Therefore, the declaration and payment can be done up to 30th June 2020. Well, the government can extend this date of 30th June 2020 also, but as on date, the outer date stands at 30th June 2020. Now friends, PM CARES Fund, Prime Minister's Citizen Assistance and Relief in Emergency Solution Fund. Now a new fund has been created and the same has been kept at par with the Prime Minister National Relief Fund, which is eligible for 100% tax deduction. And even the condition of, as is kept in section 80G, that it must be within the limit of 10% of your gross total income, that condition is also not applicable here. And in relation to this PM CARES Fund, there is another aspect, that even if you make the contribution to this PM CARES Fund within the extended period of 30th June 2000 up to 30th June 2020, that will be eligible for deduction for assessment year 2021. Another aspect which is to be understood is that if somebody wants to avail of the concessional rates of taxation as given in 115 BAA, 115 BAB and 115 BAC, then you cannot claim these deductions as available under Chapter 6A, particularly Section 80G. Here it has been specified that even if the donation is contribution is made up to 30th June 2020, as you are taking the benefit for assessment year 2021, it will not come in your way, it will not be an obstacle or hurdle, or it will not make it ineligible for you to claim, opt for the concessional rate of taxation for the assessment year 21-22, that is financial year 2021. Another aspect of this contribution to PM CARES Fund, that corporates have to contribute, make spending on CSR, corporate social responsibility. Now this is also one of the eligible spend for corporate social responsibility. And even if your spending is more than the required CSR percentage as per section 135 of the Companies Act 2013, that will be eligible for carry forward and can be set off against the subsequent year's set off of CSR. Friends, according to me, these were some of the mainly the important amendments, mainly the important relaxations in the as announced by this ordinance of 31st of March 2020. Now I will take you to the amendments via the Finance Bill. Finance Act 2020, which has received the which was passed by both the Houses of Parliament on 23rd of March 2020 and had received the assent of the President on 27th March 2020.
ये ऑर्डिनेंस का क्लैरिफिकेशन अभी ले लेवे या फिर बाद में पूरा कंप्लीट होने के बाद करें?
We can take up ordinance questions and answers right away, and then we can get to finance it.
Sir, there are few questions on the chat box. मैं एक एक करके आपको बताता हूँ. There is a question coming from Mukesh Tekriwal. He says we invest under Section 80C between April to June. Whether will be eligible for deduction for 21-22. If I continue to opt for old regime, that the investment made with this period will qualify for assessment year 2021.
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you, sir. Second question, again the same question from Sarika Sabu, which says if one invests in PPF in April 2020, can one take the tax benefit in assessment year 21-22?
Yes, it will.
Thank you, sir. And one more question from Vikas Surana. Share capital issued to 4 share applicants at a premium of rupees 240 per addition under section 68 on ground that money belongs to company itself, routed as bogus share capital. SSC willing to settle matter under Vivad Se Vishwas scheme are still the current shareholders. The current book value is 500. SSC settles the dispute in Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. The question remains, what happens to the shareholding of the alleged bogus shareholders, whether the share capital relating to those 4 shareholders gets cancelled and its impact under Companies Act.
Sanjeev, this question according to me is not at all related with this ordinance, neither with the ordinance nor with the Finance Act 20. It is purely related with immunity
company law matters.
Scheme. Therefore, I feel a detailed discussion is required only after knowing
in Vivad and Vivad.
Yeah. If anybody has any other question, please raise your hand. We will unmute you. अगर किसी के पास और कोई क्वेश्चन जो बोलना चाहता है, लिखना नहीं चाहता है, वो अपने हाथ उठाए, हम लोग उनको अनम्यूट करके डायरेक्टली स्पीकर से उनका क्वेश्चन करवा देंगे. व्यास जी का क्वेश्चन है. 1 मिनट व्यास जी, आप बोलिए. भी क्वेश्चन है तो वो हाथ उठा सकते हैं.
इसमें गुप्ता जी, एडवांस टैक्स का जो लास्ट इंस्टॉलमेंट ड्यू था 15 मार्च तक.
हाँ जी.
और सेक्शन 211 में कहा गया है कि आपका जो टैक्स पेमेंट 31 मार्च तक होता है वो भी एडवांस टैक्स ट्रीट होता है.
हाँ जी.
इन लोगों की डिफिशियंसी रह पाई और वो 30 जून तक एडवांस टैक्स का पेमेंट कर रहे हैं. उनको क्या कंसेशनल इंटरेस्ट का ट्रीटमेंट 9% का मिलेगा, क्योंकि एडवांस टैक्स की इंस्टॉलमेंट शेड्यूल्ड तो 15 मार्च तक थी.
हाँ, if you read section 3 of this ordinance, यहाँ पर ये section 3 subsection 2 of the ordinance, there are 2 conditions which you have to fulfill to avail of this concessional rate. That payment must fall due for payment between 20th March 2020 and 29th June 2020. आपका last installment falls due for payment on 15th March 2020. It does not fall, and payment must have been made before 30th June. So in the facts stated by you, you are not fulfilling the first condition according to me. Therefore, according to me, this concessional rate of interest will not be eligible in such case.
तो उसमें इंटरेस्ट लगेगा ही, जो पेमेंट 15 मार्च के बाद में हो रहे हैं.
हाँ,
उनके अंदर में ये कंसेशनल में नहीं मिलेगा और पुराना ओल्ड रेट लगेगा.
Because the first condition that it does not fall due for payment between these 2 dates, वहाँ हम लोग नहीं फुलफिल कर पा रहे हैं इसको.
अच्छा.
नहीं, लेकिन उसमें कहा ना सेक्शन 211 में कि 31 मार्च तक यदि कोई भी बंदा पेमेंट करता है तो उसको एडवांस टैक्स ट्रीट कर लेते हैं.
That is okay. That will be treated as advance tax for the limited purpose of calculation of 234B interest. तो वो तो आपका अगर आप मार्च में दे देते हो तो आपका 234B नहीं लगेगा. लेकिन यहाँ पर जो इंटरेस्ट के लिए कंसेशनल रेट की जो बात की, they have not waived interest. They have reduced the rate of interest, which is paid by June and which falls due for payment between 20th March to 30th June and 29th June. So after falls due for payment on 15th of March itself.
गोपाल, अशोक भैया एक बार अनम्यूट करो ना।
Therefore, according to me, ये बेनिफिट यहाँ नहीं मिलेगा इन द फैक्ट्स स्टेटेड।
तो अभी जो पेमेंट करेंगे वो सेल्फ असेसमेंट टैक्स करें या फिर एडवांस टैक्स का करें? अब जो पेमेंट कर रहे हैं, अब जो पेमेंट करेंगे, जब 20 मार्च से लेके 29 जून तक की कोई भी डेट को इन्होंने जब ये कर दिया है कि वो ऑटोमेटिक एक्सटेंडेड हो गई है, तो अभी जो चालान भरेंगे, जो पेमेंट नहीं कर पाए भाई लोग, उसको वन सेल्फ असेसमेंट माना जाएगा कि एडवांस टैक्स माना जाएगा जी?
अभी जो आप पेमेंट करेंगे दैट अकॉर्डिंग टू मी वुड बी सेल्फ असेसमेंट टैक्स। इट नोवेयर सेज कि एडवांस टैक्स, हाँ एडवांस टैक्स वो ट्रीट हो जाएगा, वो आपकी बात मैं मान रहा हूँ।
एडवांस टैक्स तो माना जाएगा, वो एडवांस टैक्स तो क्योंकि 31 मार्च
आपको
था।
रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट का बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा उसमें।
अशोक भाई, आपको कुछ बोलना है?
ना ठीक है, यही क्वेरी था, हो गया।
ठीक है, ठीक है गुप्ता जी, आप स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं फाइनेंस बिल। आई थिंक एवरीवन इज आंसर्ड।
नहीं, एक क्वेरी और थी कि सेक्शन 148 की नोटिस 15 मार्च को किसी के पास आई हुई है।
हाँ जी,
का जो रिटर्न फाइल करना है वो 30 जून तक फाइल हो सकेगा ना?
या बिकॉज जो इसमें जो आपका जो ऑर्डिनेंस में है उसमें दे हैव स्टेटेड कि the compliance, the due dates for furnishing of return, which falls during this period, they'll also get extended
up to 30th June, 30 जून तक जा सकता है।
Therefore, जो आज 15 मार्च को अगर नोटिस आई है और हमको 30 दिन का टाइम मिलता है, now that 30 days is falling after this 20th of March, therefore it gets extended
up to 30th।
और अगर अभी अगर 148 की नोटिस अभी आ जाती है 13/14 की, क्योंकि आ सकती है क्योंकि डेट एक्सटेंडेड हो गई है।
यस,
तो ये फाइनेंशियल ईयर 20-21 हो जाएगा क्या उस नोटिस का? फाइनेंशियल ईयर व्हिच इट हैज बीन इशूड, तो वो 20-21 हो जाएगा। अगर आज के दिन अगर 148 आती है मार्च 13 के लिए
सर,
तो फिर ये 20-21 के फाइनेंशियल ईयर की मानी जाएगी ना? फिर उसका असेसमेंट मार्च 22 तक होता रहेगा क्या?
Let me explain. 148 notice for assessment year 2013-14 can be issued up to 31st of March 20.
Correct.
Now that time limit of 31st of March 20 has been extended to 30th of June 2020.
Correct.
तो अगर आपकी 148 की नोटिस बाद में भी आती है तो वो that will be deemed as if it has been issued within that financial year.
माने उसकी टाइम लिमिट फिर मार्च 20 के हिसाब से चलेगी, न कि 20-21 के हिसाब से मार्च 22 तक होगी, ऐसा नहीं होगा ना?
No, what you say is also true for the purposes of calculating the time limits when it comes to section 153. तो वहां के हिसाब से वो एक्सटेंड हो जाएगा।
तो दिक्कत ही है, मतलब और ज्यादा टाइम मिल गया लोगों को।
यस।
ठीक है,
अशोक क्या बोलना चाहता है?
हाँ गोपाल, अशोक को अशोक अनम्यूट करो ना। हाँ
हेलो,
हाँ बोलिए।
हेलो, हाँ अच्छा, ये जो डेट आपने बोले ये डेट एक्सटेंड हो गया, मान लीजिए जो 19-20 की जो रिटर्न थी, जो कोई आदमी 30 मार्च को फाइल कर दिया 2020 को, और अभी हम 30 जून को भी फाइल कर सकते हैं, उसे दूसरा एसएससी 30 जून को फाइल किया। अब दोनों का टाइम बारिंग कब हो, कैसे होगा कैलकुलेशन? जो मार्च 20 को फाइल कर दिया और जो 30 जून 2020 को फाइल किया 1920 का रिटर्न, दोनों का टाइम बारिंग कैलकुलेशन कैसे होगा?
देखिए, टाइम बारिंग कैलकुलेशन में the language used in time barring calculation is the financial year in which the return is filed.
Right.
If that be so, then there will be two different time barring cases depending upon the financial year in which it is filed.
हाँ, और अगर डीमिंग अगर ले लें तो फिर पुराना के हिसाब से हो जाएगा कि ये बड़ा लिमिटेड अगर इसका एप्लीकेशन है तब तो सारी चीज डीम्ड हो जाएगी 31 मार्च के हिसाब से।
No sir, it is only an extension is given for filing the return.
They have not said that it will be deemed to have been filed within that year. That date has been extended.
Yes, correct.
if we read the provisions of the 153, यहाँ पर time limits लिखी हुई है, they are specific. The time limit is being computed from the end of the financial year in which the return is filed.
हाँ, तो उनका फिर टाइम बारिंग जो है उसी के हिसाब
हाँ,
से
then
अच्छा।
the time
एक साल
will
बढ़ गया।
also get extended.
Get it. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it will be. It will be.
भैया आप आगे कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं भैया।
Okay.
Okay ना, ठीक है। हाँ, ठीक है।
गोपाल सबको म्यूट कर दो ना प्लीज।
Friends, now we take up which have been carried out while passing it before both houses of parliament, which have been passed on 23rd of March 2020 and ultimately receiving the assent of the president on 27th March 2020. So I will deal with only those provisions which have either been changed or modified or newly brought in at the time of passage of the finance bill in the parliament. Now, new tax regime under 115 BAC. Friends, we had concessional tax regime for corporate sector under 115 BAB and BAA, but there was no concessional tax regime for the non-corporate sector. Now, this finance bill 2020 came out with a concessional tax regime for the individuals and HUF also. Now, one of the conditions was that a person not having income from business can decide the option, can exercise the option every year, depending upon whether it is beneficial for him to get into the scheme or pay as per the old regime. But a person having income from business, the provisions said that it could be exercised only once, and once having exercised, you cannot come back. Coming back was possible only when your business was discontinued. But the provisions were silent whether this goes with for income from profession also. So there was an impression that as if for the person who is taking profession like we chartered accountants or advocates, whether they can exercise this option every year. Now that has been clarified in the amended Finance Act 2020 to say that it will be treated like business. That is, whether I am having income from business or whether I am having income from profession, in both the situations, I can exercise my option only once, and having exercised, there is no coming back except the situation that I have discontinued my profession. That is one amendment. Then very drastic and very serious amendments were carried out to non-residents in case of non-resident taxation. Friends, all of us know that taxation of non-resident is done on the basis of the status of the concerned assessee during the relevant year. Now, as per section 6, subsection 1, if a person is residing in India for more than 182 days in the relevant year, then his global income is liable to be taxed in the relevant year as per section 5. Now, another condition for treating you as a non-resident is that if you have been in India in the relevant year for a period of 60 days or more, and if in the preceding 4 years you have been in India for 365 days or more, then also you would be considered as a resident. Now, however, by way of an explanation to section 6, it has been stated that a person who is an Indian citizen or a person of Indian origin, if he is a non-resident during the relevant previous year, and if he visits India for work or to meet his family members, and if his stay in India does not exceed 182 days, then he would still...
वरना दिखेंगे नहीं पीछे
Gopal, mute Madhav Agarwal ji, please.
Should I continue? Hello.
Yes, please continue. Please continue.
So if he visits India for a period of and stays in India for a period of 180 days, then still he would be considered as a non-resident. Now for these visiting Indians, the limit of 120 days stay has been reduced to 120 days by the Finance Bill. That was one amendment which was carried out by the Finance Bill 20. Another amendment which was carried out and which created a havoc in the minds of the Indian citizens or persons of Indian origin residing abroad, that if you are not paying taxes because of your domicile or because of your residency, period of residence in any other country, neither in India nor anywhere in India, then you would be considered as a deemed resident in India and all your income would be taxed here. Now that had evoked a very serious response from the non-resident Indians residing abroad, and people, now the Finance Ministry had to come out with a clarificatory circular just within 2 days of issuing the, 1st February the budget was presented, only on 2nd or 3rd they came out with a clarificatory circular that we will tax only the Indian income. Now that was also creating a lot of confusion. Now in the amendment they have stated that this will be applicable only in those situations where the income earned in India from business set up in India or a profession carried out in India, if it exceeds 15 lakhs, then and only then these amended provisions would be applicable. So अब आप आइए, जो पहली विजिटिंग इंडियंस की कंडीशंस थी कि वो 182 डेज को 120 डेज कर दिया गया है, वो भी मेरा तभी एप्लीकेबल होगा जब मेरी इंडियन इनकम 115 लाख से ज्यादा होगी. अगर 15 लाख से नीचे है तो those amended provisions will not be applicable. Similarly, for treating me as a deemed resident, वहां भी अगर मेरी इंडियन इनकम 15 लाख से ज्यादा नहीं है तो वहां भी मेरे पर ये प्रोविजंस एप्लीकेबल नहीं होंगे. And it has all amply been clarified in the amended provisions that it is only the Indian income which would be subject to taxation. And well, I would only add that even under the earlier regime, anyway the taxation of a non-resident or a taxation of a not ordinarily resident person, only the Indian income accruing or arising in India was to be taxed here, and not their global income. That was already subject matter of taxation. But good that they have clarified and limited to only those cases where the Indian income is in excess of 15 lakhs. So that is all about the taxation of non-residents. Now coming to the taxation of dividends. Friends, in the Finance Bill 2020, the dividend distribution tax was removed and taxation of dividend was done in the hands of the shareholders. I mean, earlier the companies had to pay. Earlier the companies had to pay the dividend distribution tax, and shareholders were not liable to pay any tax on the dividend which they received. Now, for the transitional period, there could be a situation where the liability to dividend distribution tax arises on declaration, payment or distribution of dividend. So therefore, there might be a situation where the dividend has been declared during 31st March 2020, but payment has been made post 31st of March 20. So as the declaration has taken place within 31st of March 2020, therefore the company had suffered a dividend distribution tax. Now they have clarified that such dividend for which DDT has been paid by the company, which has been declared within 31st of March 20, that will not be taxed in the hands of the shareholder. So it is a right and a clarificatory and a beneficial amendment. Second thing is regarding the surcharge on dividend income. It has been clarified that if the dividend income is up to 10 lakhs of rupees, then the surcharge will be levied at the rate of 10%. And if the dividend income is between, if it exceeds 10 lakhs of rupees, then the surcharge on this dividend income will be at the rate of 15%. And this is the 15% is the ultimate. Here you will not have those higher rates of surcharge which are 25% or 37% as the case may be. Mind you, this surcharge will have to be calculated only on the dividend income exceeding 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs as the case may be. For other incomes, the benefit of these concessional rates of surcharge may not be applicable. Another issue which is likely to arise is that they have clarified these rates of surcharge for the income by way of dividend. Now, if there is a distribution of income by the mutual funds, income distribution by the mutual funds to income of the unit holders, that may not be subject matter of this concessional rate of surcharge. Now, another aspect, another amendment in relation to dividend taxation. Friends, by the Finance Bill 2020, say ATM was brought to statute book. Now, as you know, ATM was in the Income Tax Act up to Finance Act 2003, where from Finance Act 2003 deleted the section ATM. Now, again, it has been brought back in the Income Tax Act, and ATM briefly says that income earned by a domestic company from a domestic company in the nature of dividend, then to the extent you distribute or declare dividend, then to the extent of the income received by way of dividend from a domestic company, you can claim a deduction. So that provision has been re-brought in the Income Tax Act. Now, there was a confusion. The ATM stated that a domestic company receiving dividends from a domestic company. Now, the question arose that what about dividends received from a foreign company? Now, the law, while passing the finance bill, converting into an act, it has been provided that even a dividend received from a foreign company will also be subject matter of deduction under ATM. So that benefit has been extended. So this is all about dividend. Then friends, equalization levy. Friends, Finance Act 2016 levied an equalization levy to be paid at the rate of 6% on the online advertisements which are carried out by a non-resident and where there was and that payment had to be made by the person who is making the payment. Now the scope of equalization levy has now been extended to online sale of goods and services by the non-resident entities or foreign companies who do not have a permanent establishment in India. And the rate of applicable of this equalization levy has been brought down to 2%. And the definition of online sale of goods or provision of services has also been widened to include even the facilitators. By facilitators, I mean, like take the case of Uber. Now, Uber does not have a fleet of vehicles of their own. They only facilitate the giving of a vehicle or a taxi to the concerned user. So even these facilitators have been brought within the purview of this levy. But the only threshold kept is that the levy will be applicable if the sales turnover or gross receipts of such e-commerce is less than 2 crore of rupees. Then it will not be applicable. So the threshold is that it must be in excess of 2 crores of rupees. Now, as you are taxing and now, unlike the earlier equalization levy provision where the payment was to be made by the receiver of services, now it has to be paid by the non-resident entities who are providing online sales of goods or services, as the case may be. Therefore, and simultaneously, a new section 10 within bracket 50, 1050 within bracket 1050, 50, that has been legislated to provide that as they are paying this equalization levy of 2% on the gross sales or receipts, there will the entire income earned out of the provision of these goods, sales or services will also be exempt as per the provisions of 1050. Now, tax collection at source. Friends, important amendments were carried out under section 206C, wherein tax collection at source, TCS at source was provided on 3 kinds of payments. Payments on remittances under this liberalized remittances scheme, on payments for overseas tour package, and on sale of goods. Now, all these 3 cases, the levy of TCS was introduced by Finance Bill 2020 under 206C. Now, sir, so far as liberalized remittance scheme payments are concerned, the payments in excess of 7 lakhs only will now be covered under the TCS provisions. If the payment is within a limit of 7 lakhs, there will not be any TCS. And even if the payment, if your remittance is exceeding 7 lakhs, then it is the amount in excess of 7 lakhs that would suffer TCS. So far as the payment to overseas tour package is concerned, there is no threshold. Even if your payment is say 10,000 or 50,000, one will have to collect TCS at the rate of, it would have been better if a threshold was kept for this payment of tour package, as it will increase the workload of small entities where a token payment of 20,000 or 50,000 or a lakh of rupees is made. And another important change, an amendment which was carried out, was in relation to sale of goods. Now, those provisions were that if I am a entity whose turnover is exceeding 10 crore, and on my sale of goods or services to one entity where the sales is exceeding 50 lakhs in a year, then in that situation, I had to collect tax at source at the rate of 0.5%. Now this created a doubt and raised a query that even when I make export of goods, I should suffer taxation. Now they have amended and clarified that for export of goods and for import of goods, there will not be any TCS under this 206C. So this is a welcome and clarificatory beneficial amendment. Second is that if the remittance is for an education purposes and the loan has been obtained from a financial institution, that is a bank, as per meaning assigned to the expression financial institution in section 80E of the Income Tax Act, then the rate of TCS, which is otherwise 5%, has been reduced to 0.5% when the remittance is for educational purposes, and that too when the remittance is exceeding 7 lakhs of rupees. So these are important amendments to the aspect of tax collection at source under section. Then another very important amendment, as per the original finance bill, the applicability of these TCS provisions was from 1st April 2020. Now that has been deferred to be applicable with effect from 1st October 2020, 1/10/2020. Now, certain amendments in TDS provisions. Now, TDS on technical services was reduced at a concessional rate of 2% as against the 10% as given in 194J, because there was always a dispute. SSC used to argue that it is a payment for contract, payment for work, attracting 194C. Department used to say no, it is payment for technical services, attracting 194J. So the act was amended to say that it will be on the TDS rate itself on technical services will come down to 2%. Now, this concessional rate of TDS of 2% has also been extended to payment for royalty, which is in the nature of sale, distribution or exhibition of cinematographic films. Now, why? See, I'll tell you the background of this amendment. See, if you go through the definition of royalty as given in section 916, explanation 2, where they have stated that royalty does not include payment in the nature of consideration for sale, distribution or exhibition of cinematographic films. So to align with the meaning of royalty as given in 916, this amendment has been carried out. Then the law was amended that payment to e-commerce participants by the e-commerce operators, 194O was proposed in the Finance Bill 2020 for a TDS at the rate of for the TDS to be deducted under section 194O. Now this applicability of these payments to e-commerce operator has also been deferred from 1st April 20 to 1st October 20. And then, sir, a very important amendment has been carried out in relation to TDS on cash withdrawals from bank. You know, Finance Act 2019 brought in section 194N to say that if you withdraw cash from a bank or a bank accounts in excess of 1 crore in the financial year, then a TDS of 2% is required to be made. Now, this provision of TDS at the rate of 2% in case of such withdrawals now has been made tighter for those SSCs who are non-filers. Entities or SSCs who have not filed their returns for the last 3 years, the provisions have been tightened. Now, the limit crore has been reduced to 20 lakhs. That is, if such entities who have not filed their returns for preceding 3 years, the year preceding the year of withdrawal, preceding 3 years returns have not been filed, then the limit instead of 1 crore, it will be 20 lakhs. And mind you, condition is that the returns for all the 3 years must not have been filed. Even if I have filed a return of 1 year preceding 3, then I am not hit by these provisions. Then the limit of 1 crore will continue to be applicable. But one who has not filed returns for all the 3 years, then the limit will get reduced to 20 lakhs. And then the rate of TDS also between 20 lakhs to 1 crore will be 2%. In excess of 1 crore, the rate of TDS will be 5%. Then, sir, as dividend has been made taxable in the hands of the shareholders, 194K section provides that dividend when paid to resident shareholders, the TDS will be 10%. Now the provisions were silent as to the rate of TDS when dividend is paid to non-residents. Now when there are no rates provided, then as per 195, the TDS has to be deducted as per rates in force. And if you go as per rates in force, then the deduction on dividend goes up to 30% or 40% as the case may be. Now, this amendment, a very clarificatory and good amendment has been made that when dividend is paid to a non-resident, then it will be 20% and not as per the rates in force. So, and however, even the benefits of the double taxation avoidance treaty will continue to be available to those foreign entities. If as per double taxation avoidance treaty, this taxation has to be done at 10% or 15%, that will prevail. And friends, under 194K, a doubt was expressed that when redemption is made, and if you have gain in the nature of capital gain, then whether TDS under 194K will come into play. CBDT had to come out with a clarificatory circular after the presentation of budget to say that no, it will not be applicable. Now they have inserted a proviso in 194K to say that at the time of redemption, income in the nature of capital gain will not be subject to TDS under 194K. Here it raises another doubt, and another aspect remains to be unanswered. See, the proviso specifically says income in the nature of capital gain, it will not be. What about when the units are held as a stock in trade and the income is in the nature of business? This aspect has not been clarified. Friends, I think I have covered important aspects. Now, there are certain exemptions which have been carried out in relation to charitable trusts. Section 11, friends. Now, Section 11, when you receive the donation towards the corpus with this specific direction towards the corpus of the trust, then those are not included in your income. The similar provisions were absent in Section 1023C. To align with the provision of Section 11, 1023C also this has been provided. ATM I discussed 194J, KO, 206. Friends, I hope these are the amendments which have been carried out while passing the finance bill. Now, if there are questions and answers, I shall be pleased to respond. Thank you for giving me a patient hearing.
Thank you so much, Gupta ji, for such wonderful deliberations. And we have a question from Vijeta Walia. You'll be happy to know that we had gone to a level of 48 participants who were listening to you for last 45 minutes. And we have a question from Vijeta, which says that the citizen of India who leaves India in any previous year as a member of the crew of an Indian ship or for the purposes of employment outside India, the provision of subclause C shall apply in relation to that year as if for the words 60 days occurring therein, 182 days had been substituted. No provision has been changed. Please confirm.
Sanjeev, there are already provisions in Section 6 for such entities. That is given in this in the explanation clause A, there is already given being a citizen of India who leaves India in any previous year as a member of the crew of an Indian ship as defined in so and so. The 60 days, the word 182 days. No, that has not been changed. That remains at 182 days. Only amendment is in the clause B of the explanation. That is for visiting Indians or persons of India who visit India.
I hope I have unmuted Vijita. If the answer is sorted out good, otherwise you can ask further. Vijita, you want to say something? Okay. The question is answered. Thanks. Any more questions from any other participants? They want to raise their hand. Pramod ji has a question. Let me unmute him. गोपाल, प्रमोद भैया को अनम्यूट करो ना. यस प्रमोद भैया बोलिए.
ये जो 80M का जो प्रोविजन आया है गुप्ता जी,
हाँ,
ये इसमें वर्डिंग जो है बड़ी विचित्र टाइप की है कि अगर कोई डिविडेंड किसी कॉर्पोरेट को किसी कंपनी से आता है और इस टर्म,
हाँ बोलिए.
जैसे 80M की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, 80M जो नया आया है,
हाँ,
इसमें बड़ा प्रैक्टिकल डिफिकल्टी ये लग रहा है कि बहुत सी कंपनियां, हमारी सब्सिडरी कंपनियां जो है बाहर में है, नेपाल में है, वियतनाम में है, या कहीं बाहर में सब्सिडरी कंपनियां हमारी है.
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
और वहां से हर साल डिविडेंड आता था.
हाँ, हाँ.
तो वो तो मान लो अदरवाइज टैक्सेबल था, उसकी बात नहीं कर रहा मैं. 80M में चूंकि फॉरेन कंपनी से डिविडेंड को भी एग्जम कर दिया गया है, अगर हम डिविडेंड यहाँ पर डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर दें तो.
करेक्ट.
अब सवाल ये आ रहा है कि जो पैसा बाहर से आता है, डिविडेंड आता है,
हाँ जी.
तो इसी फाइनेंशियल ईयर की बात करें कि भाई अभी मान लो अप्रैल से लेके मार्च 21 तक में मान लो हमारे पास 10 लाख रुपया का डिविडेंड बाहर से आया.
हाँ जी.
अब 80M बोलता है कि इसको यदि हम डिक्लेयर करते हैं तो बड़ी विचित्र है कि विद इन 1 मंथ फ्रॉम द ड्यू डेट.
राइट.
विद इन 1 मंथ का अगर सीधा मीनिंग ये लिखूं कि मान लो मेरे पास जो है मई, जून, जुलाई में या अगस्त में डिविडेंड आया बाहर से.
करेक्ट.
तो मैं मार्च 21 का अकाउंट जब बनाऊंगा, उसकी एजीएम तो ऑब्वियसली अगस्त या सितंबर में होगी हमारी एजीएम.
करेक्ट.
तो हम बोर्ड मीटिंग नॉर्मली कर लेते हैं अगस्त में, और एजीएम जो है मैक्सिमम हर कंपनियां की इंडिया में मोटा मोटी 90% कंपनियों की सबकी एजीएम लगती है 30 सितंबर को.
ठीक है.
तो यहाँ पर वर्ड दिया गया है कि इफ यू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट द डिविडेंड विद इन 1 मंथ फ्रॉम द ड्यू डेट. ये विद इन का मतलब क्या है कि जिस महीने में हमारे पास डिविडेंड आ जाएगा विद इन 1 मंथ में करेंगे. जून का जुलाई में,
नहीं. अगर the dividend which you receive in financial year 2021 मैं उसका जवाब दे रहा हूँ. 21 मार्च की जो आपका रिटर्न जाएगा which will be due in September, October or whatever date it is, उसके 1 महीने पहले तक आपको ये डिक्लेरेशन, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन या पेमेंट दिखाना पड़ेगा इसका.
तो ये तो जस्ट एजीएम तो हमारे 30 सितंबर होगी, तो संभव कैसे होगा?
वेल, संभव नहीं होगा तो देन यू नीड टू अकॉर्डिंगली प्लान योर प्रीपोन योर plan your to hold the meeting at such a date so that it is at least prior to 1 month, because that the day you approve in AGM, then it will be said that it has been declared.
करेक्ट. या तो फिर इंटरिम में जावे.
हाँ, या आप इंटरिम डिविडेंड पेमेंट कर दीजिए. आपको अगर उसका बेनिफिट लेना है तो आप इंटरिम डिविडेंड एज पर सेक्शन 8 इट गोज बाय पेमेंट बेसिस. क्योंकि जब एजीएम में डिक्लेयर करते हैं तो कंपनी का है कि 14 दिन के भीतर में देना पड़ेगा. तो एजीएम में उसके 14 दिन के भीतर में कंपनी से बोलती है तो ये 1 मंथ का क्राइटेरिया फुलफिल नहीं होगा. Once you pass it in AGM, then it is said to have been declared. फिजिकल पेमेंट का फिर फॉर द पर्पसेस ऑफ दिस बेनिफिट आपको जरूरत नहीं है. यहाँ द कंडीशन इज डिक्लेरेशन, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन और पेमेंट.
ये वर्ड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का किया है तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन तो फिर कैसे होगा ये? चलो ठीक है, मतलब घुमा फिरा के इंटरिम में आना पड़ेगा.
राइट सर, राइट सर.
Any other questions from anyone?
और एक तो दूसरा बता दीजिए, ये 206C में जो आया है कि भाई एक्सपोर्ट करने वाले को टीसीएस कलेक्ट नहीं करना पड़ेगा.
है जी. हाँ.
है ना, जो एक्सपोर्ट यदि किसका मतलब, हम यदि एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं किसी एक पार्टी को 50 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा का रहा, तो उससे टीसीएस कलेक्शन नहीं करेंगे।
राइट।
ओनली इंपोर्ट
लेकिन
एक्सपोर्ट।
अगर मैं ऐसे आदमी को बेच रहे हैं, वो एक्सपोर्ट ही करेगा।
आप बेच रहे हो,
जिस बंदे को हम बेच रहे हैं वो इंडियन पार्टी है, लेकिन वो एक्सपोर्ट ही करेगा उसका।
वो क्या करेगा,
इनडायरेक्ट एक्सपोर्ट इसमें कवर्ड नहीं है, इनडायरेक्ट एक्सपोर्ट कवर्ड।
वो 80 HSC में डिस्क्लेमर सर्टिफिकेट लेके हम लोग करते थे, बट यहाँ पर वो चीज नहीं है। यहाँ पर इफ इट इज एक्सपोर्ट बाय द SSC, देन देयर इज नो रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ TCS।
इनडायरेक्ट एक्सपोर्ट को ये बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगी।
राइट।
ठीक है सर।
Thank you so much, Pramod Bhaiya, for your questions. Any questions from anyone?
Rasmi Chaurasia has raised the hand.
हेलो
रश्मि।
हाँ रश्मि बोलो।
हाँ रश्मि जी।
हेलो, हाँ सर, मैं आपसे एक चीज पूछना चाहती थी कि चैरिटेबल ट्रस्ट को जो ATG में अपना रजिस्ट्रेशन करवाना है, वो एप्लीकेशन कैसे प्रोसेस करना है? उसकी वेबसाइट में इनकम टैक्स इंडिया लॉगिन वेबसाइट में तो वहाँ पे कोई एप्लीकेशन का नहीं आ रहा है।
मैडम, मैं इसका जवाब आपको अभी नहीं दे पाऊंगा, बिकॉज this is neither a subject matter of these amendments or not by ordinance, but आपको जो प्रोसीजर है ATG का जो ऑनलाइन हम लोगों को करना है, उसी हिसाब से जाना पड़ेगा। in absence of that we have to consult with the PRO or the concerned commissioner or DIT जो आपका jurisdictional है, they will help you in this matter.
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर।
अशोक भैया का हाथ उठा हुआ है। अशोक भैया आपका क्वेश्चन है।
अच्छा, मेरा एक जो क्वेरी था, जो TCS का जो डेट है, ये तो अभी 1 अक्टूबर हो गया। और इंडिविजुअल HUF में जो नया TDS आया, मतलब जिनका टर्नओवर मोर देन 1 करोड़ है और जिनमें टैक्स ऑडिट लागू नहीं है, इस साल टैक्स ऑडिट की लिमिट 5 करोड़ हो गई, तो उनके केस में बहुत सारे TDS लागू हो गए, वो तो एप्लीकेबल फ्रॉम 1 अप्रैल हो गए।
The provisions are applicable with effect from 1st April, but if the provision where the obligation to deduct is made applicable with effect from 1st October, तो हमको 1st अक्टूबर के बाद ही करना पड़ेगा ना।
यहाँ पर तो मेरा TCS में 1 अक्टूबर दिया, TDS जो इंडिविजुअल HUF है वहाँ तो 1 अप्रैल ही रख दिया।
इंडिविजुअल HUF में कौन से सेक्शन की बात कर रहे हैं आप?
194C।
194C। सो
TDS में कोई चेंजेस नहीं है।
TDS में कोई
194C
नहीं आया है। The date of applicability of 194C और 194C में फाइनेंस बिल और फाइनेंस एक्ट में कोई चेंज नहीं है।
कोई अमेंडमेंट नहीं।
देयर इज नो अमेंडमेंट।
हाँ, तो इसलिए जो
1 अप्रैल से लागू होगा
जो है, उनको जो नया TDS लगा, उनके लिए तो पहले जो टैक्स ऑडिट इनको लगता नहीं था।
हाँ, तो अभी भी अगर आपका प्रीसीडिंग फाइनेंशियल ईयर में टैक्स ऑडिट नहीं है तो आपका नहीं लगेगा। The provisions are applicable from current financial year.
तो इस साल मार्च अप्रैल 20 से लग जाएगा ना उनको?
हाँ, लगेगा।
नहीं लगेगा?
बिल्कुल।
हाँ, तो उनको ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा।
हाँ जी।
So I think that calls for a end of a session. We will request Rajji to please closing remarks, and then we'll request Gopalji to give a vote of thanks.
Many thanks to Gupta ji. He has really dealt the topic in a very swift way, to the point, and the relevant queries which were raised by our delegates also has been nicely dealt with. Once again, I thank all my delegates, and superior thanks to Gupta ji, because he had been always with us in the time when we require our enrichment and Swadhyaya process in this type of programs. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Vyas ji. We just want to inform you that we have recorded this whole session.
Yeah.
Session will be there on Facebook and YouTube. So we will share that link with all of you. So you can pass it to your fellow members if you want. Those who have missed, they can see it in YouTube and Facebook. Over to Gopal. a formal vote of thanks.
Because that is a special thanks to
Thanks to
our
Gopal.
technical savvy convener of our BBD Wag, Mr. Sanjeev Sanghi.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Sanjeev.
I request Gopal to offer a formal vote of thanks before we end the meeting.
Thank you, Gupta sir, for such a nice deliberations, and our all delegates. And thanks to our president R.K. Vyas ji and Sanjeev Sanghi ji for the technical support, all the supports.
Thank
Thanks,
you all so
everyone.
much.
Saturday we are meeting at 11:30.